ocean use began off the coast of Oregon. In 1913, the beaches were declared by the Oregon legislature as a state highway in an effort to preserve public domain. They've been public ever since. In 1976, Goal 19 was approved as a way to guide planning in Oregon's Territorial Sea. In 1991, the Ocean Policy Advisory Council was developed. This council was intended to provide information and recommendations to the government on ocean planning. In 1994, the Territorial Sea Plan was initially approved, and in 2000, both Goal 19 and the Territorial Sea Plan was amended.
From these humble beginnings, the Ocean Policy Advisory Committee, more affectionately known as OPAC, had several waves and hit a few sandbars over the next few years. Oregon is now researching wave energy and has established a Memorandum of Understanding with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. 2 marine reserves have been established, with 3 awaiting in the wings for Governor Kitzhaber's signature. Confused about who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know's on third? Let's let Jamey, our resident artist, explain.
So we've developed this map down here, and it shows all of the OPAC organizations surrounding the Oregon Territorial Sea planning process, which is shooting to get federal consistency. They are all part of a process that's put together by DLDC. Here's Marine Map, which is contributed by DLDC into the process. They're all in support of Goal 19 here on the Oregon coast. We're eventually going to have permitted wave energy sites, possibly through DSL from the state, and possibly FERC in either the Territorial Sea or the EEZ, and possibly wave and wind energy out in the EEZ. They would need a NEPA permit. There's questions about whether the wave energy within the EEZ will need a NEPA permit as well, since it'll be a FERC licensed action. We have the large kind of conservation groups potentially getting involved in the planning process out in the EEZ when that happens, and which the National Ocean Policy Act is the driver for. You have NOAA as the big kind of gatekeeper out there, and also possibly BOEM issuing a permit to license or to site the wave or wind energy sites. So we also see some of the other creatures that happen to pass through this area that we want to divide up so nicely for human use. We have, let's see, right over here, OWET and their little submarine captain involved in the process. The fishermen, RAC, so the surfers and beachcombers, conservation groups, OSU and their scientific input, and ODF&W kind of coordinating the effort into the Oregon Terrestrial Sea planning process.
Now that you have a better idea of who's on first, let's look at the science with Gway.
The role of science in the Territorial Sea Plan amendment process was twofold. First, Goal 19 encourages scientific research to acquire information to be used in decision making. A good example of this is the Emmerich test site off of Newport, where significant tests are being done to determine baseline information in the impacts of wave energy devices. The second fold is that scientifically defensible decision making needs to occur. 2 examples of this. First is the Nearshore Ecological Data Atlas. This atlas was developed using scientifically sound collected information with input from a panel of scientists to put together to determine what areas are ecologically important, deserve some level of protection. The second example is the Eco Effects workshop that was conducted to determine the potential effects of wave energy devices. This gave us information, further studies on wave energy.
The biological science is just one component, but what about the social, economic, and political dimensions?
Used engagements, workshops, for example, deliberation, polling. We use consult, public comment, focus groups, survey, collaboration. Census groups were used in that, shared decision making and on recommendations. Information, fact sheets were given out, websites, open house, media.
We believe that they were factored in well. We had good representation by the stakeholder groups. Economically, we had EcoTrust working on heat maps for the fishing grounds. Surfrider study provided non-consumptive data. In the political arena, we had local elected officials and state officials. What do we think could have been done differently or better, or to have a better result? That really depends on the dimension that the process could have been faster or slower. So for the fishermen, it could have been slower. For the wave energy folks, it would have been faster.
Needless to say, a lot has been done, but has it made a difference?
With the lifespan of the amendment, it was developed without constraint to the territorial sea. We heard that from several components that talked to us. Parts were developed to be easily updatable, especially in the Nearshore Ecological Data Atlas. But others are very static, such as the fishing ground mapping effort, and would need to be completed again and again. New technologies could come on at a very rapid pace in mid-implementation, and the amendment doesn't seem to have the flexibility to adjust to that. The state especially now lacks resources to complete this sort of process again.
Well, really, no decisions have been made through official adoption of the OTSP, or has there been approval through the FERC and NOAA yet. They've gone a long ways in getting that process going.
Given all that we've heard, we remain hopeful, and trust you will too, as we listen to the voices of our leaders and those that depend on the sea.